We welcome Wauwatosa Mayor Dennis McBride for his first interview about the book that comes out on Tuesday. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here.
Yeah, we've been waiting a long time to talk about this. And if you're watching on streaming, I have a shot of it right here, the book in my hands. I got an advance copy, and as I first started reading it, the chapter about the pandemic, I just stopped for a moment because it felt like, in a way, we are right back there. People arguing about vaccines, some people flat out choosing not to get them or not to give them to their kids, mass shootings, political polarization. As you reflect back, do you feel that way?
Well, absolutely. And in fact, that's what the book is about in large part. When I pitched the book and sold it to Indiana University Press 4 years ago, the editor said, we're not going to publish it until 2025. And he said, we want to do a 5-year look back. And like all authors, I wanted my book to come out tomorrow, not 5 years. But it made it a better book because all of those forces that were unleashed in that historic year, and it's going to be a year that we're all going to look back on, historians and others, and say this was a watershed year. All those forces that were unleashed are still washing over us. We haven't escaped 2020, and we won't for a very long time. So you're right. I reread the book so that I could be prepared for this interview and others, and it's all with us. It hasn't moved.
What's a misconception people have about how you and other mayors handled the uncharted waters of that year that you touch on in the book? What's something that people say, that can't be how you handled it?
Well, for example, we had a police officer, Joseph Mensah, who had shot and killed 3 men of color, and he's a black man himself. In the 5 years leading up to my mayoral tenure, 2.5 months before I became mayor, he shot Alvin Cole. And people kept saying, you got to fire him, you got to fire him, you got to fire him. And I kept saying, I don't have that authority as mayor. Only the Police and Fire Commission can hire, fire, and discipline police officers. And one friend of mine said, you're thinking too much like a lawyer. And I said, guilty as charged. I've been a lawyer for now over 40 years. I took oaths of office. Every time I became a federal employee, elected official, whatever, I'm going to live by those oaths, and I'm going to live by what I learned in law school and what I've learned as a lawyer. I'm going to give this man due process because that's what the law requires. But I would bet you today there are still people who don't understand that as much as I tried to get that message out.
This book, you walk through everything that happened in 2020 in Wauwatosa and in other parts of the country as well. But the focus, of course, your city, the pandemic, the presidential election, the mass shooting November 20th, 2020. A teenager shot 8 people at Mayfair Mall, the busiest mall in the state. When you look back, is there anything you would have handled differently?
No. First of all, my first chapter is called Microcosm because the way I sold the book was everything that happened in America in 2020 happened in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, which is remarkable. But I am one of the harshest critics of myself. My father always said, I don't have to kick you around because you always are tougher on yourself than everybody else. So I have reflected every day, literally every day of my mayoral tenure on my decisions. And I walk out of meetings and I go, did I do the right thing? And then when I wake up in the morning, did I do the right thing last night? I am comfortable that we made the right decisions in Wauwatosa. Not every little decision, but the big decisions, I think we got it right. And I think the proof's in the pudding. We didn't have people get shot and killed. We didn't have blocks of Wauwatosa burned down as they did in Kenosha and Minneapolis and Seattle and Portland and all that. I think we handled it well. We had the benefit of their experience, but we handled it. We ended up with $16,000 of broken windows.
Wauwatosa Mayor Dennis McBride with us on Wisconsin's Midday News. His new book, A City on the Edge, Pandemic, Protest, and Polarization, comes out on September 30th. Now, Mayor McBride, in going over the book, the city of Wauwatosa is described as the heartland of the heartland.
Milwaukee. It might be a little different. Newsweek magazine once called Milwaukee the heartland of the heartland.
So can you explain what that means?
Well, I'm a person who was raised and educated here, but then I went off to the East Coast for 10 years for more education. I worked in Boston. I worked in Washington, D.C. I actually spent a summer in Miami. I've been in other places, and other people less generously call us the flyover. But you can't win presidential elections. You can't move America forward unless all of the people, all of us in the flyover, move along with it. What happens here matters. It's not just New York. It's not just Los Angeles, Seattle, or Boston. We matter. And I think I hope the book illustrates that those forces that move America sometimes bubble up from places like Wauwatosa, Wisconsin.
What behind-the-scenes moments from Wauwatosa, whether it's during the protests, the lockdowns, or the election, do you share that you hadn't made public before and people might not know?
Well, I think if my wife were here, we'd say, it's those 40 days and nights where we were barricaded inside our house, how tough that was. I was saying to her the other night, remember when we used to go into the back of our upstairs where our bigger TV is, and we would turn the volume way up so we didn't have to hear the chanting outside and see the people flashing lasers and strobe lights in our windows and throwing trash on our lawns. That was very, very hard on us. And not knowing whether people liked me, hated me, were after me or not, everywhere I went in 2020 and even into 2021 and beyond, I always had to look in people's eyes and see, I had to be guarded. What a lot of people don't know, as I said in the book, is I told my 3 adult children, fortunately they were adults and out of the house at that point, in 2020 I said there's a non-trivial chance that someone's going to take a shot at me.
When you reflect back 5 years ago on this, did anything you went through at that time change how you view the human condition at all when you talk about such serious things like that?
I'm an optimist. I like people. That's why I'm in politics and public service. It did change my view of humanity. It was disappointing. I got attacked by people on the left. I got attacked by people on the right. I think if one thing comes out in my book, it's that I don't like extremists, wherever they come from, whatever side they're on. I got vilified by people on the left wing so much, I just thought, well, at least the people on the right wing are going to like me. And then I go out to campaign for re-election, and people are yelling at me for not supporting the police enough. But I will tell you, and I said this in the book, I still believe that the good center of the country, and I mean that in personal terms, not geographic terms, 70 to 75% of Wauwatosa supported me all through it. They just couldn't come out publicly and say it. People were scared. I had no public support during that time, and that was difficult. I felt like I was on an island during that time.
Your wife hasn't read the book yet.
No.
But she says it's too difficult. Is that correct?
Right.
Too difficult. But some people have. And I understand where your wife is coming from because as you told that story, you got emotional thinking back to that time and those 40 days and nights. For those who have read your book already, who got an advance copy of it, others besides myself, what are they saying? What are they saying about the book? Well,
I've been gratified that they think it's a well-written book. They have been surprised. My friend Tom Barrett, former mayor, former ambassador to Luxembourg, did a nice blurb. He reviewed it, and he told me that it was hard to read because he said he went through it all himself. He had sometimes the same protest would take place outside his house, and then they'd march to my house. We don't live that far apart. So it's been a range of things. Some people are surprised that they had forgotten a lot of things from 5 years ago, but there have been a number of people who said it's an interesting, valuable read, but for some people it's hard because they lived through it.
Yeah, without a doubt. Our time goes so fast, but real quickly here in the final chapter, you say Wauwatosa's evolution offers hope. How so?
We were the European Americans who founded Wauwatosa in the mid-1830s were abolitionists. They were Yankees. They were from New York, upstate New York, and New England. And our first churches were stops on the Underground Railroad. But over time, we became as segregated and as bigoted as the rest of the country. And we had sundown laws, which thousands of American communities had. In other words, if you were a black person, you had to leave our borders before sundown. We've gone beyond that. We've done a lot of good things. We've now elected a couple of African Americans to our Common Council, to our school board. We've put in place a lot of policies and procedures that are moving us beyond that. And Wauwatosa has evolved a lot, and I'm proud of that. I am proud to be part of that evolution.
It's his first book, A City on the Edge, Pandemic, Protest, and Polarization. Wauwatosa Mayor Dennis McBride, thank you for joining us today, and congratulations on the new book.
Thank you, and thanks for letting me be here.
Comes out on Tuesday.